Now, as you all are very well aware, Disney CEO Bob Iger has really been very desperate and in a phase of damage control to really kind of create his own legacy and to remain anything that he has left over at Disney intact by really allowing John, George, and Dave to do whatever that they have to do to really turn Star Wars around for the better and to reconnect the entire Star Wars community and to reunite everybody as one. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, given that Bob Iger, is really trying his absolute best to turn things around, he's been really getting in touch and really becoming more direct with the fandom as of late, really teasing and providing a lot of hints of what's to come for the future of the Star Wars roadmap, which, by the way, is going to be announced more so by this year's Star Wars Celebration event taking place next month, as well as at D23 later this year. We also have earnings calls that will have a couple of announcements spread out over the course of the remainder of this year as well. Now that brings us to exactly what Bob Iger had to say about everything related to the Star Wars movies and exactly what he was able to tease about Star Wars films and exactly what they will entail when they come back to the Star Wars theaters, of course, when they come back to the cinemas where fans can actually go back into the theater seats and watch this on the big screen again. So Bob Iger had a couple of things to say that are somewhat reassuring and really kind of make you raise an eyebrow a little bit as to exactly what took them so long to really turn things around, right? We know that it was Kathleen Kennedy who initiated the whole hiatus back in 2019. She's the one that called off all of the Star Wars movies after that. However, with that being put out there, with both Disney and Lucasfilm preparing to develop new Star Wars projects that will also be announced mostly at D23, it's noted that recently Disney CEO Bob Iger teased some new Star Wars movies when he was questioned about the franchise returning to the cinema by stating the following: "We have been looking things over every single week on how we can properly bring this brand back to the big screen again, and I am happy to say that we are having some very fun discussions with how we can manage to bring some familiar faces from the Mandalorian series to the big screen, as well as how we can lengthen the Skywalker saga and tell new stories from that side of the franchise again. At the time, we knew that we wanted to stop at 9, but over the years we have realized that the episodic films are an expectation from fans. It's the core of the franchise and where it was born from, and how we can revisit that format, that is something that we are talking about every single day." So let me pause here for 1 second before I get to the more exciting stuff, is that Bob Iger literally teasing everything related to the concept of returning the episodic film format to the big screen, as well as Mandalorian characters becoming, of course, a part of the cinemas. Now, this also pertains to all the leaks that we've been talking about of how Disney is embracing a new sequel trilogy, which basically is going to be a Mandalorian trilogy with all the fan-favorite characters like Ahsoka, Luke, Din, Grogu, Sabine, Ezra, Thrawn, the list goes on, and how all these shows are going to be a setup for that Mandalorian trilogy. And on the other end of the spectrum, the further project that's in early development is episodes 10 through 12, which, no doubt about it, this is exactly what he's teasing here right now. Everything related to how the episodic films are where Star Wars was born and how they can revisit that format again is interesting of what he's saying here. So it is true. I mean, think about it. When you have a Star Wars movie, what do you really expect? You do expect that beautiful opening crawl, the amazing John Williams music, the pen shot down to a world or a Star Destroyer or something like that. And it's just something that really feels so traditional and special about Star Wars. And without it, it feels a little out of place there. Sure, they can apply this to regular films if they want to, but there's nothing greater than episodic films, and this is exactly what Bob Iger is trying to re-explore now. So on to the next thing, alright? This is where things begin to pick up a little bit more now, is that Bob Iger was able to tease more about Star Wars movies coming back to the cinema and everything related to, of course, the overall franchise evolving. So he had this to say additionally. We realize now that the Skywalker saga is something important to fans, and we are finding ways to keep that going, but we are also having many conversations with exploring different eras that we can adapt into live action form that has already been done before in past material that George had approved decades ago. Now, by the way, guys, this most certainly is pertaining to the other leaks that we talked about of how an Old Republic trilogy 2 is in the works. That's gonna actually be the more darker and grittier version of Star Wars, basically. He goes on to state, "It's very comforting to know that we have an endless supply of source material to work from, and that's how we are going to be telling these new tales in the future. This kind of thing happens in the film industry all the time. You think you are finished with a certain format only to realize that it's where things all started from all along. The episodic films give fans a certain sense of excitement, also something to look forward to, and we want to bring that feeling back again to the community to fulfill their needs. It's truly a wonderful time to be working on the franchise again." Now, I don't know about you guys, but Bob Iger really is in the hot seat right now. He's getting a lot of expectations from Star Wars fans, from Marvel fans, from Disney movie fans, and stuff like that, and even the parks, right? He's got a lot of weight to bear on his shoulder, and he's got a lot of tasks to complete all at once. And even though he doesn't plan on staying as CEO for long, because the executives want him out by next year, there's no question about it, there's no way of getting around that. It's either he gets fired or he is able to provide all the ambitions that he can to the fans before he decides to step down voluntarily. That's basically what it is. It's a race against time. And so it really makes you wonder where Star Wars is going under Bob Iger's leadership, and how that's going to evolve with the next CEO that will eventually take over Bob Iger. You know, because we know that Iger wants to grandfather in certain aspects that will actually carry on over to the next CEO. So that really is, you know, Bob Iger's game plan right now, is to not just focus on all these TV shows and endless Star Wars miniseries, but to actually provide quality content that's going to be more spread out over time for the cinemas. And that's going to give fans a lot of things to look forward to over the next, you know, couple of years, or even more than that. And he wants to make the shows more or less of a supplement, so to speak, not being the main supply of Star Wars material. They really want to bring it back to the big screen again. And you know what? I think that's a very interesting ambition of his, you know, because it did all start on the big screen. Let's not forget about that. That's where everything began. So, anyways, with that being all put out there and said, we know that Bob Iger is trying his best to really kind of just have John and Dave do what they have to do to make Ahsoka the home run series. In fact, they want to make Ahsoka the new flagship show over The Mandalorian. That's the plan right now. But anyways, guys, you know, fill me in below in the comments what you guys have to say about all of this. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again. No.